Okay, in this video we're going to be talking about multiplication and division of fractions, and we are doing this by drawing pictures. So first of all, to start with, just a reminder about what multiplication means. So 2 times 3, oh, and I should mention, sorry, this is page 223 that we are starting on. So just a reminder about multiplication. When you have a multiplication problem, it always means the number of groups times the particular size. So 2 times 3 would mean 2 groups of 3. 2 times 1.5 would mean 2 groups of 1.5 things. So maybe you have 2 bowls of 1.5 cups of flour, so something like that. 2 times 3/4 would be 2 groups of 3/4. One half of 3 would mean half of a group of size 3. One half times 1.5 would mean 1/2 of a group of 1.5. And then finally, 1/2 times 3/4 would mean half of a group of 3/4. So an example would be if you had 3/4 of a cup of flour and you only needed half of that amount for a recipe. So you would be taking half of the 3/4. Okay, so how do we model multiplication? So it's going to go step by step, just like we did with addition and subtraction. So number 1 says I have 3/4 of a cup of pecans. I want to place half of those into my brownies. So just what we were referencing right up here. How much of a whole cup of, this should say pecans, will I place in my brownies? Okay, so it says draw a 4x2 unit. So let me do that down here. And then it says which fraction will be modeled first and why. So when we are doing multiplication problems, so in this case we need 1/2 of the 3/4 of a cup of pecans. I'm going to end up writing that down here, but so since we are taking a fraction of another fraction, when we model multiplication, we always want to start with the second quantity because we need to take a fraction of that amount. So we model the starting amount, which is always the second fraction. So model the starting amount. Second fraction. Okay, so then it says next we need to show 1/2 of the 3/4, not 1/2 of the unit. So start by drawing what 3/4 is going to look like. And let's see, I lost my crayons. Okay, here they are. Okay, so start with 3/4. And then we want to model 1/2 of the 3/4. So if this is 3/4, half of that, if we chop this into 2 parts, would be this much. Okay, so this would be 1/2 of the 3/4. And then we want to cut the whole into same size pieces. So go ahead and cut that last part. So the answer is shown by what was covered in the second color. So what part of the whole is that? So our answer, we covered up 3 squares out of how many squares are in the whole? There are 8 of them. So our complete number sentence, we did 1/2 of 3/4, and that is equal to 3/8. Now, if we got to put labels on these, this is kind of hard to reference because it's just sort of like a quantity size. So we are taking half of 3/4 of a cup of pecans, and then that will equal, we are using 3/8 of a cup of pecans. So really it's hard to say what the 1/2 is going to be. It's like 1/2 of a particular amount, so it doesn't necessarily have like a quantifier or a label to it. All right, so let's look at the next page, number 2. So number 2 says there is half of a bag of snack-size candy left from Halloween. So I placed 2/3 of what was left in a candy bowl. How much of a whole bag of candy did I place in the candy bowl? So use a 2x3 unit. Okay, so there's my 2x3 units. And write a complete number sentence. So what problem are we doing here? We have half of a bag. And what are we doing with it? We're taking 2/3 of that and putting it in a bowl. So we are trying to find 2/3 of 1/2 of a bag of candy. So we want to, again, start by drawing what 1/2 looks like. So then from that 1/2, we want to split this into 3 equal parts. Okay, so split this into 3 equal parts. And then we are taking 2/3. So 2 of the 3 parts. So to get our answer, split the whole rectangle into equal size pieces. So we have 2 pieces, and it will take 6 of those pieces to make a full bag of candy. So our answer should be 2/6 of a bag. And then if you want to reduce that down to 1/3, you can go right ahead and do that. All right, number 3. Misty has 1 1/3 pizzas left after her party. She places 1/4 of the leftover pizza in the freezer. So how much of a whole pizza did she place in the freezer? So this one says use a 4x3 unit to model this problem. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4x3. And what are we doing in this problem? We have 1 1/3 pizzas. And what is happening to them? 1/4 of it, of the leftovers, are going in the freezer. So 1/4 of 1 1/3 is what we should be doing. So we need to start by drawing 1 1/3 pizzas. So I actually need a second rectangle. So 1 full pizza plus 1/3 of another pizza. Okay. So I am going to, let's see, I need 1/4 of this to go in the freezer. So there's a couple of ways to do this. So one way to do this would be to find 1/4 of the whole pizza as well as 1/4 of the 1/3 of the pizza. So if we chop this into 4 pieces, 1/4 of the whole pizza would be this much. And then 1/4 of this 1/3, we just focus on the 1/3 and split it also into 4 pieces. 1/3 would be this little square worth. So then to get our answer, it's whatever this is combined with whatever that is. So we would need same size pieces in order to get our answer. So we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 slices of pizza. And then it takes how many of those slices to make 1 full pizza? So 1 full pizza is now made up of 12 slices. So you have 12 slices here, 12 slices here. So our answer should be 4/12, which again, if you want, reduces down to be 1/3. So 4/12 of a pizza. The other thing I was going to suggest for this one in particular is if I freehand another picture of this off to the side here. So remember we started with 1 1/3 pizzas. So a different thing that you could have done is realized that if I'm taking a fourth of what I have, if I make these pizzas right here into same size pieces, so I cut the whole into thirds, and then this other pizza is already in thirds, how many pieces do you have now? You have 1, 2, 3, 4 slices of pizza. So 1/4 would be one of those 4 slices. So you might have a picture that looks like this. So if you did this, then your answer, you would have 1 full slice of pizza, and it would take 3 of those slices to make a whole, which is why this also reduces down to be 1/3. So you could have either of these pictures for number 3. All right, and then number 4 says draw the model for 2/5 times 1/2 using a 2x5 unit and write a complete number sentence. So a 2x5 unit is looking like that. If we want 2/5 of 1/2, we want to start with a half of this rectangle. And then we want 2/5 of that half. So of the part that we have, if we cut that into 5 pieces, we would be taking 2 of those 5 pieces. So again, to get our answer, we are doing, here's the number sentence, 2/5 of 1/2. And we don't have any references because this has no context to it, so we don't know what the half is representing. But our answer, we have 2 shaded pieces, and there are now how many pieces in the whole? There are 10. So answer should be 2/10, which also reduces down to be a 1/5 if you choose to reduce. All right. So there's the first couple of pages. Let's see. Number 5. So just some more practice with this. Choose a unit and a model for 3/5 times 2/3. Write the number sentence. Okay. So we need to determine the unit. So we need to know what size rectangle we should be making. So we need a rectangle we can split into fifths and thirds. So why don't I suggest a 3x5 rectangle? Okay. So first of all, we start with our 2/3. And then we are going to take 3/5 of that amount. So from what we have, split that into fifths. And then we are taking, so 1, 2, 3 of those 5 sections. All right, and then cut the rectangle into same size pieces. So 3/5 of 2/3 is going to be, we have 6 pieces, and it takes 15 of them to make the whole. All right, excuse me. And then in number 6, it says write a word problem for 1 1/3 times 4/5, and use an area model to model the problem and write the number sentence. All right, so a word problem. 1 1/3 times 4/5, so that we need 1 1/3 groups of something 4/5 in size. So let's just say a batch of cookies uses 4/5 of a cup of flour. So how much flour would I need if I wanted to make 1 1/3 batches? So if we make 1 1/3 batches, how much flour do I need? Okay, so 1 full batch would use 4/5 of a cup, and then another third of a batch is going to use 1/3 of the 4/5. Okay, so we need 1 1/3 groups of 4/5. So again, we are in charge of picking our unit, so we need something that we can split into thirds and fifths. So I'm suggesting 5 by 3, or you could do 3 by 5, whichever. Okay. So I'm drawing 2 of these because I'm going to need 1 1/3 groups. So this would be like my one group of 4/5. And then I'm also going to need another 1/3 of a group of 4/5. Okay, so I'm just splitting this up into 2 parts. All right, so what will that look like? So let's model what we have, 4/5 first of all. So here's a 4/5, and then here's a second 4/5. All right, so first of all, we're taking one full group of 4/5. So this is a little redundant, but we would be taking all of that. And then we need 1/3 of another 4/5 for our 1/3 of a batch. So taking what we have, we would want to split this into 3 parts. So 1/3 is going to be something like this. Okay. So our answer is this green shaded part. So again, we want everything to be same size pieces. So let's just chop this up. So if we have 1 1/3 batches of cookies, so this time we kind of have a context for this first number, right? And then we use 4/5 of a cup of flour. Then what is our answer? So we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pieces. And there are how many pieces in a full cup? So a full cup of flour is 15 little squares. So our answer is going to be 16/15 cups. Or again, if you want, this would be 1 full cup. If we move 3 squares over here, that would be 1 full cup plus 1 piece extra of another 15 parts. So 1 1/15 cups is going to be the answer. All right, so now let's move on. We did 6 examples of multiplication, so let's now move on to thinking about division. Okay, so with division, it says division will be shown by using the measurement meaning. Okay, so I think we do a few at the end in terms of partitioning, but if we want to start with division. So think about what we have done before. So 10 divided by 2 using measurement. That means we have 10 stars, and measurement means that the thing we're dividing by is the size of the group. So if we're dividing by 2, that means we count 2, they go in a group together. 2 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 go in a group together. Which is why the answer is, for 10 divided by 2, is 5. Because we ended up making 5 groups of 2 stars. Right? So the same idea is going to apply with fractions. We have our starting amount, and then we want to see how many times we can make a group of that particular size. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as we look at these problems. So number 6 says, Ben has 3/4 of a cups of Cheerios left for his toddler. So if his toddler will eat 1/8 of a cup of Cheerios each day, how many days will Ben have Cheerios for his toddler? All right, so first of all, now when we are doing division, it tells us we're going to use a 1/8 model. Okay, so let's draw that. Then it says which fraction should be modeled first and why. So thinking about this problem, we have 3/4 of a cup, and then it's 1/8 of a cup every day. So with division, we are going back to modeling the first quantity, because when we're doing division, this is always like the total or the starting amount, I guess. So we have 3/4 of a cup is being divided over 1/8 of a cup per day. Okay, so what is that going to look like? So first of all, we need to see how much of a cup of Cheerios we have. So if we have 3/4 of a cup, we would want to split this into 4 equal parts. And so we are going to have 3 of them. So our first picture is what we have. And then it might be helpful to model what the amount is that we are going to be eating each day. So I encourage you to model both fractions in this case so that we can compare them. So if he can eat 1/8 of a cup of Cheerios each day, what does that look like? So 1/8, if we use the same size unit, now we would want to split this into 8 equal parts. So 1/8 would just be one little square worth. So eats 1/8 cup per day. All right, so if this is the amount that he eats each day and this is the amount that we have available to us, how many days is that going to last? So I would suggest, again, making same size pieces. So he can eat 1 square a day, and we have 6 squares. So he's going to eat this much on day 1, this much on day 2, this much on day 3, this much on day 4, this much on day 5, and then this much on day 6. Okay, so that is showing how many 1/8 there are in 3/4. So what is our answer? So the Cheerios are going to last for 6 days. So 6 days should be our answer. All right, number 7. Rob has 1.5 yards of wood left from a project. So his wife Carrie makes wooden animals from the leftover wood. So if each wooden animal requires 1/4 yards of wood, how many wooden animals can Carrie, not Carl, make? It says use a 2x4 unit. Okay. So our number sentence. So we are starting with 1.5 yards of wood. And that is being divided up into groups of what size? So these animals are 1/4 of a yard. So how many 1/4s are going to fit into 1.5? So we're actually going to need 2 of these since we have 1.5 yards. Okay, so let's see here. So here's 1 full yard. And then I did my half this way this time. So if you want to do it the other way, that's totally fine. So there again is the wood that we have. So I'll just write Rob has this much. So again, if it helps, model what a 1/4 is going to look like. So how much wood would we need to make one of these animals? So it says an animal is 1/4 of a yard. So if this is a yard, if we split it into 4ths, a 1/4 would be this much. Oops, so this is how much an animal is. All right, so if we divide up what Rob has into the same size pieces as the animal, so if I split these into 4ths, so each 1/4 is going to represent an animal. So we would have, there would be animal number 1, here would be animal number 2, this would be animal number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. Okay, so the answer to this one is also 6, just like the last one. So the wife would be able to make 6 wooden animals from the leftover wood. Okay. All right. Moving on. Number 8 says model 4/5 divided by 1/3. Write a word problem that would correspond with this problem and write the number sentence. So I just kind of copied a word problem that we've already written before. So we have to have 4/5 of something and then divide it up into groups of size 1/3. So I said I have 4/5 of a bag of candy. And then let's see, I put 1/3 of a bag in each candy bowl. Right, so then how many bowls will I be able to use? So you can make up your own problem if you like. All right, now, what size rectangle should I draw? So I need something that can do 5ths and 3rds. So how about a 3 by 5? Okay, so to start with, I want to model 4/5. So that's the candy that I have. So I have that much candy. So let me put bag of candy. And then each bowl can hold 1/3 of a bag of candy. So what does that look like? So 1/3 of a bowl is going to be this much. If I do 1/3. Alright, so again, in order to compare, it would be nice if these were same size pieces. So if we just cut these into individual little squares. So you will see that a bowl is going to take 5 little squares worth. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 available to me. So every 5 is going to go into a bowl. So let's say these 5 would be bowl number 1. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. So those 5 would be bowl number 2. So if I have 4/5 of a bag of candy divided into 1/3 groups, bag per bowl, we have made 2 full bowls. It's hard for me to say. 2 full bowls of candy. And then we still have how much of another bowl left over? So we have 2 pieces we need. Out of how many pieces does it take to make a bowl of candy? A bowl of candy is going to be 5 pieces. So our answer should be 2 2/5. Okay, and that would be in terms of bowls. Okay. So 2 of 5 pieces you would need to fill another full bowl. All right, number 9. Let's see, let's see. Draw 2 3 by 2 units. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. So this is going to kind of backtrack a little and spell out this whole drawing of both fractions business. So we've already been doing this, but it wants you to draw 3 by 2 units, and then we're going to model 5/6 divided by 1/2. So how many 1/2s will fit into 5/6? So we start by modeling 5/6. So that is what we are starting with. And then it says model 1/2 in the second unit. Okay, so 1/2 looks like this much. So it says, now that you see the size of 1/2, draw that size piece on top of the 5/6. And then keep drawing to show how many 1/2 pieces can come from the 5/6. So we have no context here, so we're just doing 5/6 divided by 1/2. So in the past, I've just been like circling the quantity. So this time it just wants you to color just so to reinforce this idea. So again, if you really want to compare these, let's make same size pieces. So this is what we have. this is how much we need for each group. Okay, so what I want you to do this time is it takes 3 units and we have 5 available. So we would be able to make 1 full group using those 3. And then we still have how much of another group? So we have 1 full group, and then we have 2 pieces we need out of 3 that it would take to make another full group. So our answer should be 1 2/3. Sometimes you might be tempted to say 2 out of 6. So we don't really have 2 out of 6 available to us. It would be 2 out of the 3 that it takes to make the group. So just try and remember what we are trying to do in these problems. All right, and then same thing with number 10. It says draw 2 5x2 units. Oh, that one's a little that one's a little off. So we're doing 9/10 divided by 2/5. All right, so we have 9/10. So split this first one into 9 equal parts, or sorry, split it into 10 equal parts, and we have 9 of them. Okay, so this is what we have. And then we are making groups of size 2/5. So what does that look like? So if we split this into fifths, 2/5 would be this much. So that is our size per group. All right, so let's make same size pieces. So also cut this one in half. All right, so a group is going to be 4 squares worth, and we have 9 squares available to us. So again, it wants us to like color on top of. So these 4 would be group number 1. 4 more would be a group number 2. So we would have 2 full groups. And then we still have how much of another group? We have 1 piece, and it takes how many of those pieces to make another full group? 4. So not 1/10, but this would be 1/4 of another group. So 2 1/4. All right, let's keep going. So we just have like 5 more left, like just 5 more, right? Okay, so for number 11, it says draw 3 7x2 units. First of all, get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7x2, 7x2, 7x2. All right, use the first 2 units to completely model 1 3/7. Okay, and then use the third one to model what 1/2 looks like. Show the complete model for 1 3/7 divided by 1/2. Okay, so we are doing 1 3/7 divided by 1/2. So first of all, model what we have. We have 1 full rectangle plus 3/7 of another. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3/7. Okay, so that is what we have. And just to compare, so you know what this looks like, we are making groups of size 1/2. So 1/2 is this much. Okay, so how many groups of 1/2 can go into 1 3/7? So I'm going to start by cheating a little bit because 1/2 and you have a hole over here. So essentially we can just chop this one in half, and this part would be your first group of 1/2, and then this part would be your second group of 1/2. So we have 2 full groups of 1/2. And then from here, these are different sizes, so I do want to cut them into same size pieces from here. So we could have done that also over here, and then we have a half would be 7 little squares. So we could have also split this one up and then done 7 squares and 7 squares. But I was trying to save a little time. Okay, so do we have enough to make another full group of 1/2? No. So what do we have? We have 6 pieces we need. And it takes how many of those pieces to make another full group of a half? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our answer for this one should be 2 6/7. All right, number 12. So hopefully you're catching on to this. All right, in number 12, 1/2 divided by 4/5. It says use a 5x2 unit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's draw a second one. Okay, so in this case, we have 1/2. And then a group is going to be a size of 4/5. Okay, so if we make 4/5, so a group, oh, yes, okay, sorry. So a group is going to look like that. So if we're doing 1/2 divided by 4/5, in order to compare these again, it would be nice if they were the same size. So go ahead and chop these into individual little squares. So this one is different than all of the rest that we've done because in order to make a group, we're going to need 8 little squares. But the problem is we only have 5 of them. So there's nothing really to show necessarily in this picture aside from we have 5 pieces we would need out of 8 pieces that we need to make a full grouping. So answer is just going to be 5/8. All right, so all of those examples have been partition involving measurement where we're taking a particular size of something. So the last 3, we are switching over to partitioning instead. So this says that the partitioning meaning can easily be shown if the divisor is a whole number. So for example, doing 2/3 divided by 2. So 2/3 divided by 2 means if I have 2/3 of something and I place it into 2 groups. So I have 2/3 of something divided into 2 equal sized groups. How much will be in each group? So it says write a word problem that corresponds with this. Okay, so it's exactly what I just said. So I have 2/3 of a cake. I want to divide it equally into 2 containers. So if I want to divide it into 2 equal containers, that's not really what I meant to say, but so a better way to say this is divide it equally into 2 containers. But I think you'll get the idea. So how much cake is in each container? All right, so that's going to be our word problem. All right, so let's see. Model this problem and write the number sentence. So does it tell us what size to make this? We need something that can split into thirds and halves. So let's just do a 3x2. So this would just mean I have 2/3 of a cake. So 2/3 of a cake being divided into 2 containers. So this should be pretty easy because 2/3 of a cake, it's already cut into 2 slices. So essentially 1 slice is going in the first container. The second slice would be going into the second container. So that means each container would be getting 1 slice of cake out of the 3 slices it would take to make a full cake. So our answer should be 1/3 of a cake in each container. All right, so then it also says, is this the same thing as 2/3 divided by 1/2? Why or why not? So what would 2/3 divided by 1/2 mean? In terms of partitioning, this would be like saying 2/3 of a cake has been divided into half of a container. So if I were to model a picture of this, it would almost look like, I can sketch it really quickly here. This would be like saying, okay, here's 2/3, and that is half of a container. So let's say your container was like this big. So the 2/3 of a cake is being divided into half of a container, and then the question would still be how much is in a full container. So 2/3 divided by 1/2, the answer, there would be 4 slices of cake in the container, and compared to the 3 slices it takes to make a full cake. So 2/3 divided by 1/2 is 4/3 actually. So no, those are not the same. Okay, so we'll do more like that later next week if you didn't fully understand that idea of dividing into half of a container size piece. All right, so we got 2 more to do. Write a word problem and model 1/2 divided by 4. So let's see here. So I'm just going to cheat. This is a long video, so thanks for hanging in there. So we'll just do the same sort of idea. I have 1/2 cakes. I want to divide them equally. Into 4 containers. So how much cake is in each container? All right, so we are doing 1/2 cakes divided into 4 containers. All right, so use a 2x4 unit. Let's see, so we have 1 full cake plus half of another cake. Okay. And then we want to split this into 4 equal parts. So let's see, one way to do this would be, let's see, if we made same size pieces, if we did that, that's not going to be helpful because then we have 3 slices, but we need 4 containers. So let's say if we chop these again, is that going to help us? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slices, but we have 4 containers. So let's try slicing again. So if we slice them all the way down into little squares, now we have 12 squares to divide up among 4 containers. So 12 divided by 4 would mean you would have 3 per container. So these 3 slices would go in container number 1. These 3 slices would go in container number 2. These 3 slices would go in container number 3. And then those 3 would go in container number 4. So each container is getting 3 pieces of cake. And it takes how many of those pieces to make a full-sized cake? There are 8 of them. So our answer would be 3/8 of a cake per container. So 3/8 of a cake. All right, and then finally, the last one. Write a word problem for 1 3/5 divided by 2. Okay, so again, same sort of idea. I have 1 3/5 cakes. I'm not very original. So I have 1 3/5 cakes. And this time I'm going to say that I want to give So instead of talking about containers, I want to give to 2 friends equally. I want to give to 2 friends equally. Alright, so how much cake will each friend get? Okay, so let's see. We're going to do 1 3/5 cakes divided among our 2 friends. So, a model, so we need something that just makes fifths. So, how about a 2 by 5? Okay, so split this one into fifths. So I have 1 full cake and then 3/5 of another cake. Alright, so if I want to split that equally among my 2 friends, one thing I could do is make them start by having same size pieces. So does that help me? So in terms of slices, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slices of cake for 2 people each. So 8 divided by 2 means each person would be getting 4 slices of cake. So those 4 would go to friend number 1, and then these 4 would go to friend number 2. So in terms of our answer, each person is getting 4 slices of cake, and it takes how many of those slices to make a full cake? There are 5 slices in a full cake. So each friend would be getting 4/5 of a cake. So 4/5 of a cake per friend. Alright, so that should wrap up talking about multiplication and division. Alright, so your homework assignment this week is to look at page 231. And so it's just reviewing everything we have already done. So I know this video, it's really fuzzy looking, but starting on 231, you're just practicing one of each that we have talked about in the videos this week. So write me a word problem for an addition problem, draw me a picture, write the number sentence with the answer. Number 2, it's write me a word problem for a subtraction problem, draw me a picture, write the number sentence. Number 3, write me a word problem for a multiplication problem, draw me the picture, write me the number sentence that's over here. And then number 4, write me a word problem for division. Since this is a fraction, you more than likely want to make this measurement as opposed to partitioning. Draw me a picture, write me the number sentence. So you're just trying these 2 pages for homework. And then next week, we're going to continue drawing some pictures of multiplication and division, since they tend to be the harder 2 operations compared to addition and subtraction.